There we go. Welcome in, everyone. Mad Talk Sports, episode 52. Kyle, the Celtics guy. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, I think it's been about 2 months since I've been on. Been a while.
Yeah, you came
After I had
on for
the streak of 5 straight.
you did the NBA preview, and then you kind of went into a little Celtics hidey hole, I guess.
I had to watch my basketball, dude.
Yep, fair. And I'm starting to get caught up, which is, like I said to you the other day, why I wanted to bring you back on is that'll be part of what we do today is we catch up on the NBA. We're about 30 games in, so we kind of know something by now. But today's title is the Year of the Dragon. So if you aren't aware directly or indirectly, so Chinese, they have of course, the year of whatever, this is the year of the rabbit in 2023, about 12-year cycles. So 2024 is the year of the dragon, which is a big deal for that culture. So out of respect to that, and just as another theme of the episode here today, that's what today's called. Again, we're going to catch up on the NBA and then dive into the NFL because it's, playoff pictures clearing up, and we're kind of starting to figure something out before we wrap everything up with actually making our picks for this week as always. So
Sounds
without further ado, let's start with basketball. Again, we're about 30 games in, so we kind of know some stuff at this point. We've seen things play out. It's not just a small sample size. We're almost at the halfway point. So, Kyle, I'm going to let you kick it off because you've probably been more plugged in than me over the course of it. But what's your biggest surprise to this point?
This isn't a good surprise, but I thought the Atlanta Hawks would be much better than they are. Right now, they are 12-18, and I thought they were going to be a top 6 seed in the East in the playoffs. And it's looking like they're wanting to trade DeJounte Murray a year and a half into the experience with him and Trey. I thought that team was going to be good this year. I guess I'm wrong. Can't always bet 1,000%, but
no,
that's a big surprise to me.
Murray should just go back to San Antonio. They could use him right now.
I think the Lakers are saying they might want him.
The Lakers are that team, though, to where they always want everyone.
Them and the Heat. They're like, oh, yeah, we wanted him.
Yep, exactly.
5 months later in a report by, Woj.
So I know with the Hawks, it was a narrative last year even that, eventually they'd want to trade Trae Young if things weren't working out. Do you think that's still the case?
I think you keep him because he's still probably 25-ish. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'm just guessing because he's a couple years older than me. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm just guessing 25, probably turning 26 soon if I had to guess. I think you try this with him for the rest of this season, and then if you request out, then you just hit reset, trade everyone, Capella, DeAndre Hunter, and just restart.
Well, that's the thing is it seems like they have nice pieces in that they don't need to be in a hurry, but that's just the way it goes in the NBA. If it doesn't work for 2-3 years, it's all right, tear it down, retry.
Yeah, but Trae Young, he has to be I think he could be really good on the Sixers is Joel Embiid's second guy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's not when they went to the conference finals against the Bucks a few years ago, that was the biggest fluke in recent history of the NBA to me. I don't know. Keep him around, but I think they have to reset soon. They're not winning anything with these guys anytime soon.
That's fair. And you mentioned Joel Embiid. I think the Sixers have been a pleasant surprise, honestly. They're not world beaters or anything, but I think everyone expected them to fall apart with the James Harden stuff. But Maxey's taken that next step, and Embiid's even better than last year with his MVP season.
Yeah, no, I hate the Sixers. This happens every year. Everyone's like, oh, they're going to fall apart. But then they're always in the top 3 of the East.
Yeah.
Just because, Embiid can will them so far in the regular season. But the playoffs, that's when, everything falls apart for them.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's the track record of most teams. But hey, if you think to the Nuggets, that was what everyone said about them until it didn't. Now, obviously, they had more excuses with injuries than the Sixers had. The Sixers, it's mostly examples of just straight up chokage. So I hear you there. But my surprise is the Timberwolves. Like I think that's like the obvious one as far as like just them being this good. Like that's what's shocking to me. Is not that they're in the hunt or in the mix, but just the fact that they're still a 1 seed right now in the Western
Yeah,
Conference.
they're 22-7 right now, second best record in the league.
Oh, behind the Celtics.
Yeah.
Funny how that works.
I guess they're the third best. They're behind the Celtics and the Bucks.
Oh, fear the deer.
No, yeah, but it just seems like I don't know. They have the same almost. They started with D'Lo last year, but they started Connolly this year. So maybe he's that. They just needed a distributor to like feed Edwards and Cat and get Gobert his lob touches he needs to be effective on offense. They've been really good, and I've always loved Cat. I've always thought he was going to be really good. A lot of people don't like Gobert. I like him, but I always thought that team was going to be good. Then after last year, it's like, I was down on them. But I think this is what they should have been last year if Cat didn't miss most of the season. I think people forget that their second or third best player, depending on what some people think, missed most of last season. And it's hard to win when, a guy who's been an all-star, all-NBA guy misses 50 games in a season. Right. It's hard to win when that happens.
No, you're right. Like, because obviously Cat, number 1 overall pick, I'd say he's the second best guy on the team. You could argue he's maybe not the second most important. Like, you could make that argument, but I do still think he's that top-notch talent.
Yeah.
That's a good point, because that's something that slips a lot of people's mind because they're Minnesota. No one really pays that much attention to them unless they're good. So this year, now that they're good, we're looking at them. And to me, it's impressive that they've been able to keep it up for this long and the teams that they've beaten, because they beat the Celtics earlier this year. They beat the Nuggets at some point. So that's what makes me think that this should be able to translate and like carry over the course of the year. Now, are they ready for the West? Yeah. Probably not, but even this is massive for a franchise like Minnesota.
Even if they just win one playoff series, that's a huge win for them.
Right.
They haven't won one since like 2003-ish, I think.
KG era.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's different strokes for different franchises. It's kind of like the Lions in football. Like the Lions winning the NFC North is a massive achievement. While if the Bears or the Packers or I don't know, whoever were to win their division, it's like, all right, this is step one. Now what are you going to do from there? But for like a team for poverty franchises, hate to call them that, but poverty franchises, it's the little victories that mean a lot. So
yeah, I agree.
So those are the surprises. I don't imagine you're surprised at all about the Celtics having the best record. They had a lot of continuity, even with the big swings that they've taken. But how do you feel about them? Do you feel the same? Do you feel they're different?
I feel even more confident in them winning this year than I even before the season started. Derek White has taken a step. He's a fringe all-star now. Kristaps has been better than I thought he could ever be. Healthier than I thought he could be so far this year. I think he's missed like 5 games maybe.
Whoa.
And that, yeah. Drew Holiday's been really good. Horford, he's old, but he's still pretty good for what he is. And then Jalen and Jason are still, all-star, all-NBA guys. So I'm really high on the Celtics still. Championship or bust season. I believe that. I think they can win it. If they don't, I will be disappointed like I was last year when they didn't win. But I think this team this year is better than the one last year. So, yeah, it's championship or bust for me still.
Yeah, and I agree with all that. Like, last year over the course of the season, I felt like it was the Celtics and it was the Bucks as far as, like, who could win it all. Obviously, the Nuggets kind of came out of nowhere to surprise people, but, well, not came out of nowhere, but you know what I mean? Like, they took that leap. But, like, I already believed in the Celtics, like, over the past few years. But I agree. Like, the moves you guys have made they're incredible. Like, Drew Holiday over Marcus Smart it's a massive upgrade that you won't see in the stat book as far as, like, a lot more points or a lot more, impact on, like, points given up per possession or whatever. but you just feel it. Like I
The
think a lot of
decision
it.
making at end of games, Marcus
Exactly.
Smart would pull up for the dumbest threes or do the dumbest passes. But Drew Holiday, he's played with, Anthony Davis and
Yeah.
Giannis and other people. He's like, he knows to get the ball to the team's best player and just not get out of the way, but be ready to make a play
Right.
if he needs to. Stand in the
Yeah.
corner or like set a good screen or something. He knows like what to do to win, which I think Marcus, I love Marcus. He's one of my favorite players of all time. But like he always thought he was the Celtics. Like I don't know if that makes sense, but
No,
like
it does.
he thought he was like the team all the time. It would not pass to Jalen and Jason, or when we had Kemba and like Kyrie and all those years, he wouldn't pass it to them at the end of the games. We lost a lot of games we should have won because of it. It's just frustrating. And Drew knows his place, kind of.
Right. Yeah, I agree. That's a good angle as far as like the knowing your role and like Marcus Smart thinking he was like, Mr. Celtic or whatever. But because that was real, like you could definitely feel that. Like I always thought that was like part of what was always made me feel better as a Bucks fan as far as like why we might be able to beat the Celtics. Well, because Marcus Smart's going to give us a few that he shouldn't. So I agree absolutely on the Drew front that massive upgrade, especially for end of game, which is obviously going to be the most critical part once we get to playoff basketball. And the Kristaps angle of it is very interesting too, because you guys, I feel like you've had Horford, who's been like this stretch four, but outside of that, it's been kind of like clunky big guys like Robert Williams or like even
Aaron
Brant.
Baines, Daniel Tice,
Right.
Amir Johnson, all
Exactly.
those fuckers.
Like these big kind of clunky big men. Like that's the best way I can describe them is they're just a little clunky. And now you got this kind of unicorn stretch four who gives you all that same stuff that Horford does, but he's significantly younger with a higher upside. And I think his ability to like any given game have like a 30 piece is definitely crucial because with Horford, if you were going to put up 30, it means he went like 8 for 10 from 3. And obviously that's, not super sustainable. So that's real too. And then Derek White just continuing to ascend is just, it makes this team look really good. Now it's just going to all be like, can you put it together when it comes to the conference finals and the finals?
It comes down to Tatum. Honestly,
I agree.
It just comes down to Tatum. Like Jaylen Brown can only do so much. Like he's an all-star, all-NBA guy too, but he's the second best player on the team.
Right.
He doesn't get the passes at the end of the game, really. It comes down to, what Tatum can do. If he can just be tighter. I don't know. He just needs to step up. He didn't last year. A couple of years ago when we made the finals, he stepped up a bit, but last year it just kind of fell apart for him. And that's the one thing I've been watching for this season.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree that the Jason Tatum piece is real because everything else is put together so well to where it's do you have the right superstar or not? That's simple as that. So Celtics look great. No excuses once we get to the end of the road, but we'll continue on here so we can stick to our time frames of like an hour give or take here today. So last time that you were on here was you were obviously pro Celtics and I was obviously pro Bucks. So kind of same exercise here on like reviewing where the Bucks are, which after like a shaky start, the Bucks have put things together they're figuring out their identity still, but in that process, they're 23-8. They're the 2 seed. They're 1 game back from the Celtics, second best record in the league. Like while figuring out who they are, like how do they fit together? What defense are they even playing? Like that was a big thing the first like 10 to 15 games. Now they still have holes. Like I do think I want to see more on the defensive end. Like we're putting up some awesome numbers on offense. Like even the other day against the Nets, we won 144 to 122 or something like that, which is incredible. We play with a lot of pace and our half court offense is a lot better because of Dame and even Malik Beasley with his shooting that he's had at least to start the year. But I do want to see improvement from the Bucks on the defensive end, specifically at the guard position, because Dame, not an elite defender, obviously he's a negative on defense for the most part. And even Beasley's not that great of a defender, and Connaughton seems to be slipping a little bit. So the Bucks do still have some work to do, but overall, I'm optimistic. Giannis is having arguably his best offensive season of his career with 30 plus points per game, averaging I think it's about 10 boards, 5 assists, something like that. He's shooting 60%. So he's doing Giannis things, and Dame could be more efficient, but the volume is there, and he is fixing end of game problems that the Bucks had. And Middleton seems like he's getting back to close to his prime self, or at least, resembling it. So a lot of good, but I do still have questions if they want to be able to topple the Celtics.
The thing I worry about with the Bucks is an outsider is in a playoff series, even especially now that Drew is gone, who's guarding Jimmy? Who's guarding Jalen and Jason? Who's guarding Jalen Brunson? Who's guarding Donovan Mitchell?
Right.
Who's guarding these shiftier, bigger wing, bigger guard wing guys? Pat Connaughton kind of was that guy. He did it okay, but now he, like you said, he's slipped a bit this year. So that's why I'm Beauchamp. Maybe he can step up. Because Middleton's lost a step or two,
Yeah, from a defensive standpoint, for sure.
That's what I worry about with the Bucks is that. Because in the East, there's a lot even Julius Randle the other day, they couldn't really guard that well.
Right.
Because even though him and Giannis are both power forwards, he's so much smaller and kind of a little quicker,
Yeah.
Quick twitch. Because Giannis one of the fastest athletic guys in the league, but he can't keep up with those smaller wings because they can just have a little quicker step to them.
So absolutely.
I don't know who they can get. I don't know who will be available in the trade market. I saw I was looking at something today. They're interested in both Royce O'Neal and Dorian Finney-Smith on the Nets.
Yeah.
Again, one of those guys could swing a series for them, But they have to improve their guard and wing defense if they want to be in the finals again.
I agree. And I think the Bucks strategy has been, they looked at last year, especially. So this is my inside perspective, having watched, them obviously a lot closer.
Yeah, I haven't watched them as much this year, because I'm always watching the Celtics games.
Right.
They're usually at the same time.
Yep. Just happens to be that way. But I think a big factor in the Bucks decisions this offseason was that obviously Drew Holiday, I've felt for years now, even before he was a Buck, that he's the best perimeter defender in the game. And with that, he gave Jimmy Butler all he could handle, and Jimmy Butler was still eating us alive. And basically what the Bucks, I think their decision-making process is that, having these defensive stoppers is great, but if we can't put up points to just simply outshoot them, then it's all for naught. And I think that they looked at what the Nuggets did last year, to where first half of the year, they were probably 20 to 25th ranked defense stat wise. But then the final 10, 20 games of the year, they were probably around the 10 mark. And basically they're kind of believing that with chemistry, that they can fix their defense over the course of the season to be good enough so that their elite offense can take them over the top. I think the Bucks are buying into the fact that you don't need to have a top 5 defense in the NBA to win it all anymore, which is a risky proposition, because the Nuggets, again, even though they weren't ranked super high, by the end of the season, they were playing as good as defense as anybody. So it's risky. I do think they need to make at least one addition for a perimeter and wing defender, especially. I would ideally want someone with a bit of size so that they can guard a Jimmy Buckets, for instance, or even, a Jason Tatum for that regard, or Jaylen Brown. So I certainly want to see them make a move as well. And I do think they will. The Bucks have been pulling rabbits out of their ass for years now, as far as somehow bringing in PJ Tucker to go on a run, somehow swinging the Dame trade. They do not care about mortgaging the future, which is the right move for a team like the Bucks because of our history. So I 100% agree with you.
I got nothing else to say on that one, man.
Yeah, so we'll see. It's going to be really fun to see. I hope we finally get to see these guys, the Celtics and Bucks, match up in the playoffs again this year, and that the Heat stay out of the damn way.
Oh man, Bucks got to win a series if you want that to happen.
All right, Kyle, we're not getting into this. All right. So I think it was last time when you were on that we did the preseason predictions for the NBA.
Yeah.
So now we're each going to get one mulligan. So from like a golf standpoint, it's basically a redo on your stroke, on your swing there. So we're each going to use one, just one. So you got to be picky here. Kyle, what are you using your mulligan on?
I wrote down a few, but I'll just pick one.
I mean, if you want to go quick, we can go through a few.
No, I had the Thunder like the 8th seed in the playoffs. I was wrong. They're so much better than being barely in the playoffs. They have an outside chance of just even making the finals this year. So yeah, I'm taking that one back. Well, I had like the Pelicans and like fucking like Jazz over them. I feel dumb.
Jazz, man. I don't know what it is with them. But yeah, so the Thunder was actually something I'm proud to say I was right on. I had them as my 3 seed. Drake went even further and had them in the finals.
Yeah, he had them winning the finals, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, fuck. He's a nut, which is still a little crazy. But my mulligan, I have to use it because it was so bad. I didn't even have the T-Wolves in the playoffs. I think you had them as like the 6 or 7 seed.
Something like
Drake had them as like the 8. I had them out. I thought they were going to struggle, and I thought they were going to be shipping out Cat at the trade deadline. So as dead wrong as it gets, so they're my biggest surprise, and they're my mulligan all at the same time.
Fair enough, man.
So I think to me personally, I don't think the NBA season starts till after the trade deadline. Like now we're starting to figure out what teams are, but what they really need. So there's still a lot to happen over the course of even the regular season. What are you most excited to see?
The Celtics continuing to dominate the league, obviously. No, but I have a few more. Seeing the downfall of the Suns, Warriors, and Lakers is pretty fun. I would like to see that continue. I want to keep seeing them losing. Maybe 2 of them miss the playoffs. I wouldn't mind that. Fuck those teams. I don't like those teams at all.
Shocker. You don't like the Warriors that beat you in the finals a few years ago, and you don't like the Lakers that are your rival. Shocker.
I like KD, but I just don't like I don't like the Suns. I don't like the way they've gone about like their team the last year. It was just dumb, and they deserve to lose because of how dumb they built that team.
So what do you mean that by? Do you mean that by like the trades they've made? Do you mean that by canning Monty Williams? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
All of the above.
They had a good team. They could have ran back Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, Booker, and DeAndre Ayton this year.
Yeah.
Probably would have been fine. But they traded. I don't know, man. But firing Monty Williams might have been a good decision. I don't know.
Looks that way right now, but
yeah,
we'll see.
Oh man, speaking of that shit, the Celtics are down 10 to the Pistons right now. That's not fun.
There goes.
But I don't
losing streak or 28.
Yeah, dude. I knew they were gonna lose this game going into it, but I just don't like it. They had a good team. They only played like 10 games together total. They should have ran it back. Since when has Beal been a difference maker on a team?
Never.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They spent so much on him, and then they traded away Ayton for Yusuf Nurkic and Grayson Allen. That's just dumb. I don't get it. I don't. They deserve to lose.
I agree with that. Like, and that's what I had as my, like, what do I want to see most was how are these microwave super teams going to play out? Meaning, like, specifically the Suns and Clippers. So, like, obviously the Clippers are on the uptick, it seems like.
Yeah, Harden's clicking well with those guys.
Yeah, for now. Now we'll see how that translates over the course of the year. But I want to see how, like, that forms out. But on the Suns side, I agree with you that I was okay with what they were doing-ish. Like, I didn't love it. I'm a big Monty guy, even though he's obviously not doing well in Detroit so far. Like, he didn't start good in Phoenix either. It took some time. But I didn't like that. I didn't love the Beal move, but I was okay with it. And they brought in Vogel, the coach, and I was like, maybe this makes sense. But then when they traded Ayton is when I was like, what are we doing, guys? Like what are we doing? And I agree. It's kind of head scratching. I do want to see them pick it up a notch and, get into the playoffs and kind of keep things interesting as far as I want to be able to watch that 7 versus 2 seed game and actually have some interest,
Yeah.
Like I want to see good matchups in the playoffs. So I hope they turn it around and figure it out. But man, KD's been great, but they got to get healthy.
I think Beal, Booker, and Durant have played like 20 minutes together this whole season, and they're 30 games in or so,
Yeah. It's like every KD super team since the Warriors just can't stay on the court.
Yeah. He wants to win somewhere else so badly, but
I know.
He gets the worst luck. I don't know. I kind of feel bad for him. At the same time, it's like, it's kind of what you get for getting like 2 free rings,
right. No, I'm not going to feel sorry for him. At the end of the day, I personally was a fan of wanting him to stay in OKC at the time.
Oh, everyone was.
Right. Obviously, we got to, at the time, I hated the Warriors super team, but we got to see a level of basketball that we really haven't seen this decade. So, from that perspective, as time goes on, I'll look back and be like, man, that team was just so damn good. So KD, yeah, he does kind of deserve it. It's kind of like the path he chose and everything like that. He's just choosing bad partners at the end of the day. Like, you chose Kyrie, you chose Harden, and now you're choosing Booker and Beal. Just not the greatest choices, but we'll see how things play out for them as the season goes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's pivot to the NFL. Let's talk some football since we are in the thick of things here. And quickly going through our medalists from the past week: bronze, silver, gold. Kyle, you know the drill. Kick us off with bronze.
Joe Flacco. I put him at bronze. Had a really good game. I think the 3 games he started, he's had like 300 yards each time. And I'm pretty sure he's only had started 3 games this year. I'm not quite sure, but I know his last 3 games he's thrown 300 in every game.
Yep,
looking really good. To the point where I'm like, why wasn't he starting all season?
Right,
for a team,
Yeah. It's like I said to you in our fantasy chat the other day. Like when you said that, I was like, that's kind of like what happens when you play for like a team like the Jets or something like that. Like you look like tainted goods. But if Flacco had some decent flashes on the Jets, but I think the NFL, like, they just like started to believe that like old quarterbacks were washed and there was no value to them, when really your situation that you're plugging them into is so much more important. Like, if they were to plug in like a Matt Ryan or something, would he have any positive effect? I don't know. Jay's been big on pushing that agenda on someone needs to sign Matt Ryan. I disagree. I think he is washed. But Flacco, he's a gunslinger. He's a slinger. If you give him a good old line and some weapons, he can make magic happen.
I saw something on Twitter the other day. It's like Joe Flacco went on that crazy Super Bowl run and played against Palomalu and Ed Reed in practice every day.
Yeah,
it's like he's not scared of these new defenses. Like he's not intimidated by any of these guys.
I saw that too. It was like Flacco went against TP and Ed Reed. These new safeties are sweet to him.
Yeah,
which is so funny to think about. So that's a good one. He's obviously been balling out. Love to see that. I've always been a big Joe Flacco guy myself. My bronze medalist is Malcolm Kuntz on the Raiders. He had 3 sacks and 4 tackles for loss against the Chiefs, which is starting to become a reoccurring thing as far as defenses having their day against the Chiefs. But he balled out. He kind of looked like Khalil Mack during that game, and he's from. He went to Buffalo as well.
Oh, really?
And he's on the Raiders. So like that's pretty much where the parallels end. Yeah. But
I didn't really watch much of that game. That was a Christmas Day game, right?
Yeah, that was the.
Yeah, I really kind of watched much of that one.
I was like in and out to start, and then I plugged in for like the whole second half, and I was like, all right, when are the Chiefs going to get it? And they just never did, which is another topic. But yeah, Malcolm Kuntz, a nobody that no one knows, who had a hell of a day.
Am I up or is it you?
You can go again with the silver.
Breece Hall had 95 and 95
Yep.
receiving and rushing.
I knew it.
Yeah, really good game. One of the best games I've ever seen of like from a running back in like
Great.
recent years.
Yeah.
2 touchdowns, I think, also. Just a
He did.
great game for like a pretty bad offense. Who was it? Tim Boyle? Did he start the other day
No,
for them?
Trevor Siemian.
Oh yeah, that's who it was. Yeah. Either way,
Tim Boyle
terrible
got cut.
quarterback, and you're still able to do that, put up those numbers.
Yeah, that was awesome. And obviously, you had him have him in fantasy, so he almost carried you to victory. I had the same thing in one of my leagues in the semifinals. I had Brees Hall put up like 40 something, but then just went against someone a little bit better, I guess. So that's my silver medalist too. Brees Hall, monster.
No, nice.
If only they had an O-line. Could you imagine the season he'd be having? All right.
Aaron Rodgers might be alive if they had an O-line.
You are correct. All right, Kyle. Who takes home the gold?
Oh, Amari Cooper, easily.
Yeah, I agreed.
Well, no one else could. Best game anyone's had like this whole season, pretty much, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, let's see. I wrote down 11 for 265 and 2 touchdowns. That is nuts.
Like, I think he could have had one more touchdown, but he got taken down in like like within the 10. I'm not sure though. That could be a fake memory I'm having.
Could be. I don't remember, but I didn't catch a ton of that game live. It was more so like as things went. But yeah, Amari Cooper, he's a beast. He's out tonight, which is a big bummer.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, it was a late minute scratch. So that's
Elijah Moore about to go off then.
For sure. Him and Joe Flacco connection.
Oh, no, Njoku's going to go crazy.
He's been going crazy, though, which is annoying because I am going against him in fantasy.
It shows like they've had these guys for like 2 years, and now they get Joe Flacco off like, just sitting on his couch at home, and they're having the best games of their careers. It's crazy.
The Browns, I love the Browns, dude. Like,
before they're likable now that they don't have Watson.
Right. Yeah, that's even I agree with that. They're more likable. They're this comeback story. They're gritty. Man, they're doing this without like half their cap too. If you think about the Watson and Chubb.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Chubb. Yeah.
Yeah, which a lot of people have, which is crazy because he's, top 3 running back in football. But yeah, Browns are an awesome story. We might get to them again later. But let's pivot away from medals about at the half-hour mark here. So want to cover a lot of ground really fast with you here, Kyle, and that's going to be going through the Question King. So I'm going to lead some questions. I'll have you lead your answer. I might chime in a little bit, but goal is to get through each of these in about a minute or so. So first one, I know you're excited to talk about. So Russell Wilson has been benched, and the first question here is simple: fair or unfair?
I think it's unfair. I think he's been a top 10 quarterback this year. And it's the only reason they're not paying him is because if he gets hurt and can't pass a physical, they owe him $37 million in the offseason. Like, it's simply just they don't want to pay him the money that like he deserves. I don't get it. I think Sean Payton is overrated and a bitch. I always thought that. I never thought he was a good coach. How are you going to trust the guy who led Bountygate to be like I don't get it. How are you going to trust him to be the one telling the truth?
Now that's fair. That's a fair critique on the Sean Payton front that does get forgotten a lot over as time goes on. Like, people just don't think about Bountygate anymore or attribute it to him. So I understand that. And Russell Wilson's been playing obviously a lot better than he had last year. Like, his number is like 26 touchdowns, something like that, like 10 or less interceptions. Like,
I think he has 8 interceptions.
Right. So he's been very efficient. So I understand. And I personally I never abandoned Russ as he's gone through the struggles in Denver or even at the end of his tenure in Seattle. What I think that Sean Payton is seeing is a lot more to be desired. It's like there's some meat left on the bone with the Broncos offense this year, at least the way I feel anytime I have a chance to watch. Is like, yeah, they're fine. They're way better than it was last year. But if I'm just watching, I feel like I see some open guys that don't get the ball. And I feel like Russ has kind of gotten to be a little bit unwilling to stand in the pocket and take some hits or even extend the play and take a hit and throw on the run a little bit, which I get. That's fair. Brady did that at the end of his career, as far as like, get it out quick, like, keep my passer rating good and all that stuff. So I'm not blaming him for it. I do think it's a mistake for the Broncos, though. Like, while I
Yeah.
see what they're thinking, last year around this time, I chastised the Raiders for doing the same thing with Derek Carr, and Russell Wilson's better than Derek Carr. So I'm gonna be consistent, and I do think it's a little unfair and a little unwise because they do still owe him a lot of money for a lot of years to come. What are you gonna do? Go with Jarrett the Javelin Stidham and hope he can lead you somewhere?
That's what bothers me the most is they were like, oh, our best chance to win is like with Jared Stidham. It's like that's just a lie. Say just benching Russ because you don't want to pay him the money. Don't make up that Jared Stidham is this, the quarterback that anyone thinks is good.
Right.
He's not.
No. And he had the one good game against the Niners last year that maybe they were fooled by when he first started. But it's kind of strange though, because regardless of saving any money, like he's on the books. He's on the books for years to come. Even if he's on your team, whether he's on your team or not in Denver next year, he's going to be the biggest dead cap hit of all time. And it's by a pretty big margin. And the year after that, I think he's still a top 10 cap hit of all time. So like they are nowhere near exiting the woods here. So I just don't see it. I just don't get it. Like at this point, unless you've seen something in Jarrett Stidham that the rest of the world hasn't, you may as well have just rode it out with Russell Wilson until you got to a good exit ramp on the highway.
Or if Stidham's so good, start him weeks earlier,
Yeah.
I don't get it. I think we've talked enough about that one, though.
Yeah, I agree. We don't need to spend too much time on the Broncos, who have kind of fizzled their way out of their playoff chance, in my opinion. Now, other teams that are fizzling, slipping a little, specifically contenders, namely the Chiefs, who we mentioned a little bit earlier as far as the offense sputtering. The Eagles went on a little losing streak, barely made it past the Giants this past Christmas Day. And then the Cowboys, who have lost back-to-back now. Who do you think is the least likely to go on a playoff run? So basically, like, whose concerns do you think are the most concerning?
Chiefs. They've looked the worst out of those three teams all year. Like, they beat up on bad teams. Earlier in the season, they beat up on bad teams, but they can't even do that anymore.
Right.
They can barely beat bad teams. They lost to a bad team the other day.
The Raiders.
Yeah, it's them by far for me. Like the Eagles and Cowboys, I don't know. They can each probably make a run to the championship game, but I think it's the Niners, NFC to lose. So
I agree with that. That the Chiefs have been the most concerning of the three because their problems seem like the hardest to fix. No one's open, and when they are open, they can't catch. And the run game, as a result, has stalled. And Kelsey is a little older.
Been out all these games now too.
Yeah,
he's such a big part of their offense when he's healthy, but he missed like 2 games and he got hurt again this last game, and it's crazy.
And he's one of those backs to where if he isn't at like close to 100%, he can't be that chaotic physical runner that that makes him such a special player. So their offense is certainly concerning. The good thing for them is that defense is still legit. Like, I think that can still carry them. And I've been scarred enough by Tom Brady-led Patriots teams that offenses looked like shit all year. And then all of a sudden, come playoff time, because they have a top 5 defense, they win 20-17, 20-17, and somehow get into the Super Bowl. Now, that'll be hard with teams that they'd have to play, like the Bills, the Ravens, the Dolphins, whoever. So theirs is the most concerning. But if I were to say least likely to go on a playoff run, and I mean like deep playoff run, I mean like
championship game,
championship or Super Bowl, it's going to be whoever loses the NFC East. So right now that looks like it'll be the Cowboys, which I'm not abandoning them. They were my pick to win the NFC in the preseason, but they looks like teams have kind of figured out a way to beat them, run the ball on them. And then on the defensive end, or guarding their offense, teams aren't all that worried about their run game. So to me, the Cowboys seem like the least likely because they'll probably be the 5 seed, go at a red hot Bucks team, then probably at like the Eagles or the Niners next. So it's a tough road.
if the Bucks have like a good defensive game, they could just beat them first round, wild card weekend.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I think they're all still alive. I think we both agree on that. But you mentioned the Niners being, it's their conference to lose, which I 100% agree with. They just got whopped by the Ravens on Monday Night Football, the kick to really like put a cap on the holiday weekend. What are your takeaways from that game, like on the Niners side or Ravens?
I don't know. I think the Ravens might just be the best team in the league. I don't know. They've looked really good all year. What, they've lost 3-ish games, I think. 3. Yep. This might just be Lamar's year to win, That not even that whole team. Their defense has been good all year. I feel like they're getting healthier. I haven't been paying attention too much, but I think they're getting healthier. They're getting towards the postseason. Roquan's been one of the best linebackers in the league all year, leading that defense.
He's a beast.
And hate him or not, Lamar can get you a first down at any moment in a part of a game if you need it.
Yeah.
If it comes to that, if Lamar needs to get 10 yards, I'll put my money on him getting 10 yards somehow in a 3rd and 10.
Yeah.
I think the Ravens, 49ers, they did look not great, but who knows if that's just playing on a holiday? Who knows where their heads were at? Because I don't know how that feels. So maybe that has something to do with it, being away from their families and whatnot. But yeah, I think the Ravens are probably just the best team in the league.
I agree with that on the Ravens side, especially. They were my preseason Super Bowl pick, so I'm feeling really good about that. But man, their defense, you mentioned it, ever since they got Roquan last year, it's been incredible. And this year,
who want to pay that guy?
Dude, I thought it was a terrible decision at the time. You're like, oh, why pay Roquan when we could pay TJ Edwards and what's his name, Edmonds at the same time?
They've been good though.
Huh?
They've been good.
They have, but have they been Roquan Smith?
No.
So ever since that, their defense has been absolutely elite. And this year they have a rare opportunity to lead the league in sacks, turnovers, and I think points given up as well, which is incredible considering teams like the Browns, for instance, that that are an elite defense right now, or even the Chiefs or whoever, the Niners, whoever you want to include in there. So the defense has been turning it around. So that's real. So on the Ravens side, I agree. They are electric. You mentioned Lamar. I'm a big proponent of Lamar. I have a thing to where if I am a doubter on someone and they prove me wrong, I become their biggest supporter. And I was a doubter on Lamar before he got in. Since then, he's done amazing things. And I think this year he tackles the next hurdle as far as playoff questions. But you mentioned health. They've been unhealthy and unlucky injury-wise for a couple years, really. But as long as Lamar and the key defensive players are healthy, I'll take them against anybody in a straight-up game. So I agree with the Ravens aspect. From a Niners standpoint, we saw again so it's been a while. It was the last time we saw this was in their 3-game losing streak. But teams, if you can punch the Niners in the mouth, which is not easy, only a handful of teams in football can do that. But if you can get a jump on them early to where they're playing from behind, you have a really good shot because Kyle Shanahan stinks from playing with the deficit.
Yeah. Even then, they just look so out of whack after they go down because they're just not used to it,
Right.
It's kind of like they don't know what to do, kind of, especially Brock Purdy because
oh yeah,
he's lost 6 games so far, even that, maybe less as a starter in the NFL.
Yeah, 5.
He's just not used to losing.
No.
So they do look a little, they don't know what to do when they're losing. Everyone's trying to make too big of a play kind of thing on their offense. It's just I don't think they'll win the Super Bowl. I think they'll probably win the NFC, but I think the Dolphins or the Ravens could beat them if they play them in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it would be a tough choice once the time comes. Now, From like a pro Niners standpoint, you could make the argument that they should have lost by a lot more than they did. Their defense they showed that they are still an elite defense of just holding the Ravens electric offense to field goals, because 5 turnovers, like, that could have been a 40 burger, like losing by that much. So there is reason for optimism from them. Season's not over, sky's not falling. They do still look like the class of the NFC, but Ravens look like the class of the NFL. Who do you think can beat the Ravens in the AFC?
The Dolphins, who I had picked to go to the Super Bowl, preseason.
Yep.
I think that just because if it gets to a track race, I think the Dolphins are just most set up for that than anyone else in the NFL. If like you just need to put up points in a game, the Dolphins can score easier than anyone else in the league.
That's fair. And I like how their defense has improved since Jalen Ramsey has gotten back too. That is what makes me think that they have a shot now. I do think that they need to get the 1 seed to do it. I don't trust them going on the road to a colder environment come January. So
they just need one team to beat the Ravens, and then they're home,
They play the Ravens this week, so it's on them.
Oh, I mean like in the playoffs. Yeah.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, just need one team to, whoever wins that wild card game matches up with the Ravens. They just need them to beat them. But then I guess
wild card.
Yeah, I guess that team beat the Ravens, so I guess I kind of would be scared of whatever team that is.
Right. And obviously you can't avoid everyone in the playoffs. But speaking of wild card, I think it is a wild card who is the team that would have the best shot at beating them. And I think it's the Browns. Just the fact that they played them twice a year, that they match them on the defensive front. They know how to play Lamar, which is a big factor in slowing him down. So that's a team that if I'm the Ravens, I don't want to have to play Joe Flacco and the Browns defense. Like, that would be a really cool matchup. Flacco versus the Ravens.
You've seen that comedian. He's done that thing about how the Ravens fans still love Flacco and shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Think so.
Yeah. I think half that stadium would still be cheering for Flacco.
Right. Yeah.
It's like a certain type of person,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like, like he was ushered out of the organization because Lamar came in. It was time.
Yeah.
So like there's no animosity there. So that would just be a cool sports overall circumstance. All right, let's talk some Bears real quick. Nice. So right now you still hold the number 1 pick, and it's looking like you'll probably have it from Carolina because they need to lose one more game, and we have it's like clinched that we have the first overall pick. So for the Bears, let's assume you get the number 1 pick. Defense has been playing a lot better. Justin Fields has been playing better. Are you rooting for a QB, or are you rooting to trade it away again?
That's hard, man. That's what all Bears fans have been thinking. This is kind of not worst case scenario, but like in your own head, trying to think like what to do. It is kind of the worst case because we all want to see the team progress this year, and we have, and everyone wanted the first pick all year, and we do.
You have.
Yeah.
Now what?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like some people are arguing to get Caleb Williams just for financial reasons, so we can reset like the clock because we just signed Montez Sweat to a big extension, and Jalen Johnson's playing a lot. Is the best ball of his career. He's probably going to get a big extension, and we can't afford to probably give. I love Justin Fields, but what is he like? At best, around like the 17th or so best quarterback in the league, Yeah. Like, you can't afford to give him because he'd probably get like a Daniel Jones contract, and we see what's going on with the Giants. That would kill all the momentum that we have going.
Yeah.
I love Justin. I say we just send him to his hometown, Atlanta, Georgia.
Agreed.
For a second-round pick, and we take Caleb Williams, or if they think Drake May is better, take him.
Okay. You guys need to say, all right, which one do we think is better? and then you take the opposite one because historically you guys always choose wrong when it comes to top quarterbacks. That's a joke, but
We didn't have much of a choice of Fields here. The other three guys were already gone at that point.
That's fair.
And I would say it's even an argument that none of them are better than Fields at this point right now.
Who would that be? That's Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance.
Yeah.
And then Mac Jones later in the draft.
Yeah, it got picked like 2 or 3 after Fields.
There's an argument to be made there. Obviously.
This season, at least, not whole career, this season.
Sure.
Fields could be the best out of all of them.
Could be. I'd still go with Trevor Lawrence, but I get it. You guys are in a tough situation, but I personally, you guys need to stop overthinking it and just take the golden opportunity in front of you to take Caleb Williams.
That's what I think they're going to do. Unless somehow we make the playoffs and Fields goes on like some crazy dream run, then you can't get rid of him then, you know?
Sure. That's fair. But the way I look at it is you can't go back-to-back years of having the number 1 pick and trading out of it, and you look back and you're like, damn, we should have had C.J. Stroud. Damn, we should have had Caleb Williams. And they're both
Wright's been pretty good this year, though.
Sure, that's fine. But at the end of the day, do you think the Browns were happy having Joe Thomas versus having any other quarterback that they missed on for a decade plus?
Joe Thomas is pretty fucking good.
He was probably a top 5 tackle of all time in the NFL, and he never played a playoff game. So yes, you need tackles, but you need quarterbacks more. So that's how I look at it. But I don't know. I'm not going to broadcast it too loud because as a Packer fan, I'd love to see you guys screw the pooch again. But sounds like you're torn.
Like Nix, yeah, you want to see us take Bo Nix or something first overall. Fucking older than me somehow, Bo Nix.
I was having a conversation about that earlier today about how in college, QBs of 25 and older should not be allowed to play. All right. Last question on this front. So, Year of the Dragon. Again, we kicked that off. But what that means is, I have it pulled up here. So, the personality traits of people born in the Year of the Dragon are charismatic, intelligent, confident, powerful, and they are naturally lucky and gifted. So, essentially, this is when the rock stars, this is when like the leaders of a generation are born, is in the Year of the Dragon. So figuratively, of course, who will be born in the Year of the Dragon? Essentially, what star will emerge in each respective sport that we pay attention to, that being basketball with the NBA, football with the NFL. What star will be born over the next, let's say, full calendar year? So 2024.
I put he's already kind of become a star so far this year, but Kyren Williams, Rams running back.
Yes.
I think he's going to lead. I think it'd be so funny if him and Stafford went into Ford Field and just beat the Lions in their first home playoff game in like 40 years or whatever.
Yep.
I think that would just be so funny.
That's awesome. That's a great choice. And I say that not only because it's great, because I said that too. Kyren Williams looks like the next Todd Gurley right now. Like, it's been incredible. He's like 120 yards per game since he came back from injury. And that includes going against Cleveland and Baltimore. So it's not like he's doing this against cupcakes.
Second in rushing yards after missing like 5 games, I think.
Incredible.
Crazy.
It's like, as much as the attention goes to like Puka Nacua, justifiably, like he's having an incredible rookie season. But what makes this offense go is Kyren frickin' Williams.
Yeah, obviously I agree. I picked him.
So he's a dragon that's born already, but I think people will start to catch on more because I agree with you. I think they'll go, if they do end up going to Ford Field playing the Lions, I think they're winning. How about on the basketball side?
I know a lot of like basketball fans. Everyone knows he's good already, but I think more of like a deep playoff run and becoming more of a household name. SGA, Shea Gilgeous. I think they could easily make the conference finals. If they get lucky enough, a good matchup could make the finals.
Yeah.
Like that team's really good, and he's obviously their best player, and I think he's going to become like a superstar this next over 2024.
Yeah, I agree. And I had a feeling you would put him, so I put SGA or Anthony Edwards. So it'll be hard for both of them to do that. But
Unless they
we
match
are
up in the conference finals.
right. That would be pretty awesome, which means someone would have to knock off the current dragon, which is Jokic. So we're on the same page there. So I thought my unique pick was going to be Kyron Williams. I should have known. You've been a big Kyron guy really all year long. So
even last year, I picked him up on my fantasy team, and he didn't. Before he even played a game, I picked him up because some fantasy guy was like, he's going to be the best player like ever, and I picked him up. And he got hurt in warm-ups before week 1 of the 2022 season. Didn't play a single game, I think. And this year is like, oh, fuck that. I'm not picking him again. And then, he's like a top 2 running back in the league.
Yep. Yeah. That's the lesson I've learned in fantasy is screw injury history. Just draft who you want to draft.
Yeah. I just didn't think the Rams were going to be good, but like they're pretty good. They could make like a kind of deep run.
I think they could. They are uniquely positioned because they've already played the Eagles, so they might have a good chance to scheme up something special, and the Eagles are obviously slipping. And they play the Niners twice a year. So, the top teams.
Yeah, and a lot of their best players have already played and won a Super Bowl.
Right. They have that championship medal to them. I absolutely agree. Rams have been a real pleasant surprise, even after they slipped in the middle of the season. I agree. I'm glad that they are solidified as a wild card because they belong in the playoffs. All right. Well, now that we're about the 55-minute mark, let's wrap up quickly going through the Week 17 picks. So first up, tonight's game, we got Jets at Browns, which I, as always, made my pick beforehand, but Browns were favored by 7.5 coming in. That was before the Amari Cooper injury, so I don't know if that affected anything. But Kyle, who you got?
I haven't checked the score at all, but I'm going to say Browns. They're just the much better team.
I agree. I got Browns 23-16, which means the Jets cover by half a point. I hate doing those. All right. Detroit at Dallas. Sneaky good game. Ooh. Dallas favored by 6 at home. Dallas wins at home.
Detroit's just been playing not great football recently.
No.
I think Dallas is just better than them.
I agree with you, especially at home. And even if they were in Detroit, just because it's turf still. I got Cowboys 31-23. Detroit coming off basically their Super Bowl. So I think this is a little bit of a letdown for them. Tennessee at Houston. Tennessee's been feisty. Houston gets C.J. Stroud back officially, and they are
Will Levis or Tannehill going to start?
What's the difference?
Levis is better at this point.
I don't know. He's more
Houston.
electric.
It's Houston. C.J. Stroud, they were rolling before he missed the last 2 games, I think.
2.5.
Trying to put him out of the playoff picture a little bit.
Right.
Which sucks. It would have been cool to see Stroud play in the playoffs, but it's
possible.
Yeah. Who knows? But it's Houston. Tennessee, I've not liked watching them once this year.
Come on, Derrick Henry threw a touchdown last week.
Oh yeah, how many times
they should have beat the Seahawks? They had them.
Defense sucks.
Yeah. I also got the Texans 24-17. No need to overthink that one. Atlanta at Chicago. Chicago favored by 3 at home, which I originally was a little surprised on. As I think about it, it makes a lot of sense. They're playing better right now, but Mr. Bears fan?
I'm picking the Bears. Last year when they played, they were pretty evenly matched, even when the Bears were tanking and had a much worse roster.
That's fair.
And this year we have, for the last 8 weeks, we've had I think it's the 3rd best defense in the league based on some weird stat I know nothing about, but I saw on Twitter. So it's the gospel to me now. But Montez Sweat, it sucks that we lost Ngakoue. Our pass rush has been a little worse since we lost him 2 weeks ago. But Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon and Daquan Brisker have all been playing really good these last few weeks. Tyreek Stevenson's one of the best rookies in the league. I think it's the Bears, and we can run the ball on anyone like for the last 2 years. So
Yeah.
I got the Bears.
You almost convinced me to flip, but I do have the Falcons 20-17. I don't know. I feel like the Falcons have a little bit more to play for right now, so maybe that gives them a little desperation factor. I hear what you're saying. Bears are playing a lot better than them, and it's at home, so maybe that pushes
Yeah,
them over the edge.
outside Atlanta's a dome team. They're not bear weather. Bear weather this weekend.
Yeah, the Falcons are out of their nest, but I'm going to go with it. That's what the gut says, so I'll roll with it. Potentially game of the week is Miami at Baltimore. Baltimore 3.5-point favorites. Essentially, this is for the 1 seed.
It's in Baltimore, right?
Yep.
I'm going with them just because they're at home, a little worse weather, not in the nice, Miami weather. And Jalen Waddle has the high ankle sprain, might be out for the rest of the regular season. So I'm going with Baltimore because, Miami's missing like their third best offensive playmaker.
Yeah.
Not counting Tua because, he's not really quarterback can't really be like a playmaker unless he's like a
Lamar Jackson
guy to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Run.
I agree. Yeah. Same thought process. I got the Ravens 27-21 winning at home, securing the 1 seed.
Would that secure the 1 seed?
Yeah, it will.
Oh, cool.
Yes, it would because they would have the heads up and one fewer loss than the Dolphins, and no one else is within striking distance. So now we've got an NFC South battle with the Saints at the Bucks. Bucks favored by 3 at home.
I got the Bucks. They've been playing really good these last few weeks. Their defense has been really good. Mike Evans is, somehow still one of the most underrated players in the league.
Yeah.
Baker is quietly putting like his best season of his career together this year.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I love the Buccaneers. I love watching them. They're not the best, but I think they're just a good like aggressive football team.
Yeah, I agree. They're playing excellent, and they just look like clearly the class of at least the NFC South. So I do got the Bucks winning, sweeping the Saints this year. 27-23. I think the Saints put up a fight, but the Saints have a knack to lose those games. Patriots at Bills. Patriots beat them last time, coming off a big win over the Broncos, but the Bills are at home, favored by 11.5.
The Bills are rolling. It's the Bills. They've played like the team they should have been all year these last few weeks. They're playing the great football. I'm taking the Bills by a big margin.
I agree. I got the Bills. The score I put was 24-13. I don't like that I have the Patriots covering by half a point, so I'm going to change it to 28-13 just because I think this is the game the Bills win by 2 touchdowns or more. I agree. They're rolling, even though they had a close call against the Chargers. That was like their chance to have a mess-up game, and since they were able to pull it out, I think they're good to keep rolling.
Yeah, they've done that so many times this year, and that was like the first time they're like, we'll just take care of business,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Arizona at Philly. Philly is 10.5-point favorites at home.
Dude, if Philly doesn't win this game, don't even show up for the playoffs. Like, they should win this easily. If they get fucked by I guess maybe it could be tight because Jonathan Gannon, knows their offense a bit, knows what they do on defense too. I mean, it could be tighter because of that, but like, at some point, talent just has to win out in a game like this.
Right. I agree with you. I do think the Cardinals can cover that 10.5-point spread, but I do have the Eagles winning 31-23 as they should. That's Jonathan Gannon wrinkle is interesting. I didn't put too much thought into that, but I think that's a good thing to take note of. Battle of the Cats. We got Panthers at Jags. Both teams, obviously, well, the Panthers have never been high, but the Jags are sputtering. 6.5-point favorites at home, which isn't a lot when you're going against the worst team in football, but can they get it done?
I'm going to say the Jaguars, but I would not be surprised if they lost. They look so bad recently.
I know.
Lawrence gets a new injury every week, and they're like, they don't sit him for a week, just let him rest. So, like, if you're in the playoffs, you need him because, like, what's the point of making the playoffs? He can't play,
Yeah. I hear you. But Trevor Lawrence guts it out every week, and he will do it again this week. Jags will win, but I think it's going to be kind of ugly for a while. I do got the Jags winning 27-17. Panthers won't look nearly as good as they looked against the Packers on offense, but you never know. Jags defense ain't too hot either. Raiders at Colts. Colts 3.5-point favorites at home. A little bit closer of a spread than I was expecting, honestly.
I got the Colts. Even though they shit the bed last week against the Falcons, I think that was this last week, right?
Yeah.
They're still a pretty good fringe wild card team that should, win. I don't.
Right.
I got the Colts.
Yeah, I agree. I have the Colts 24-20. I think the Raiders are playing hard. They'll keep the game close for a while, but the Colts just have more play for than the Raiders, so they should win this one. Rams, who we both just got done raving about, are 4.5-point favorites at the Giants, who will be starting Tyrod, or Tyrod, as he prefers to go by.
I got the Rams. I was just talking about how good I think they are. We just got done with that 10 minutes ago or whatever.
Yeah,
they're a team. They're a dark horse team for me for like a NFC Championship appearance, even the maybe Super Bowl appearance. They got two superstars emerging along with Cooper Kupp, and Higbee's a reliable tight end. Stafford can sling the ball, make any throw that any other quarterback can make. Their defense, their defense is okay. That's the only thing I'm going to worry about. Aaron Donald can only do so much. Imagine the one thing I've been thinking about is if the Rams did have still had Jalen Ramsey, I think they'd look a lot better on that end. But I think it was just time for those two to separate.
Yeah, and I think the Rams committed to their youth movement around their cornerstone older guys, which looks like it's going to pay off now and moving forward. So agreed on the upside of the Rams. I do think they win this game and they cover 27-20. Giants can be a little feisty with Tyrod Taylor instead of Tommy Cutlets. As last time that he was healthy, he was playing well, and when he got in against the Eagles, he played pretty decent too. So it might be a tight game, but the Rams are certainly the better team and should win. The Niners 12.5-point favorites coming off a loss, going at Washington, and Jacoby Brissett will be starting. One quick thing, I sniped that call preseason that both Ritter and Howell would be benched this season. Sniped it. Those guys stink.
Howell's much better than Ritter, though. You got to say that.
Howell's sure. Ritter is garbage. Ritter's terrible.
Brissett should have been starting all year.
I agree.
The Browns, they have Flacco now, but I think they should have brought him back after last offseason. They should have just kept him.
I agree.
They were in the wild card mix up until Watson replaced him.
Right.
I don't know. He should have been a starter all year. He's not a great quarterback, but he's consistent and makes the right throws, I think.
I agree. And all that being said, I imagine you're picking the Niners to beat them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I just kind of went on the little tirade right there.
Yep. I also got the Niners winning and covering 31-17. I think honestly, the Niners probably will score more than that, but I'll leave it as is. But
Chase gun revenge game.
Oh, could be another good.
He's been pretty bad on that. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's been very underwhelming his whole career.
I 100% agree with you there. Pittsburgh at Seattle, two teams still in the respective wild card races. Seahawks are 3.5-point favorites at home. Probably welcoming in Mason Rudolph again for the Steelers.
Is that the Sunday night game?
I don't know. No, Packers-Vikings is Sunday night.
Oh, okay. But I think it's the Seahawks. They've been playing better football these last few weeks as Geno Smith has got healthier. They have a really good running game with with Charbonnet, and I'm blanking on Kenneth Murray. Walker. Murray. That's a
linebacker.
Yeah. I was confused. Yeah, Walker. They have one of the best receiving trios in the league, talent wise, maybe not stats wise, but three guys that could go off like any game,
Yeah. They all have 50-plus catches on the year. They're the only team that has.
And their tight end, Parkinson, is starting to play good too.
Yeah, and then, of course, you still got Noah Fant there as well. So,
yeah,
they got some pieces. All right. Admittedly, I'm picking the Steelers mostly because of my rooting interest for the Packers to sneak into the playoffs. I need the Seahawks or Rams to lose at least one more. So I'm picking the Steelers 20-17. I picked them last week to beat the Bengals, and they showed me something. Now, can they put it together for 2 weeks in a row? I don't know, but I'm picking them. I'm going with what I want. All right, 3 games to go here. Cincinnati at Kansas City. Not the same effect we were hoping for going into the year, but could be a sneaky good game. Chiefs are 7-point favorites at home.
The Bengals DC owns the Andy Reid's offense. He owns them.
Amarillo,
yes.
whatever his name is.
Yes. How he has not become a head coach yet is crazy to me. I think it's still the Chiefs, but I think it's a much closer game than people think it will be. Just because, like I said, the Bengals defense is like, and this is the worst version of the Chiefs offense in like probably any of those matchups they've had so far,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I still have the Chiefs winning, but I think the Bengals are going to put up a good fight.
I agree. Chiefs 24-20, all the same reasons you said. And honestly, it could be a little lower scoring than that, which is weird to say about these two teams and when they match up. But sneaky good game, actually. Not a sneaky good game. Chargers at Broncos. Broncos 3.5-point favorites at home with Jarrett Stidham welcoming in Easton Stick, just like we all hoped for.
This game's nasty. I'm going to take the Broncos just because they've been better. They have a better – I don't know. I'm just taking the Broncos. I don't really care about this game. I'm just going to say Broncos. I'm not going to put too much thought into it.
Yep, I agree. Broncos 26-16 in a mostly unwatchable game. Now, the last game, Sunday Night Football, Packers at Vikings. Vikings 2-point favorites at home. They will be starting Jaren Hall, the rookie QB.
This is his second start, I think, because he got hurt in the first one. Dobbs came in.
Plays, right.
And, I don't know. I never watched him play at BYU. I don't know how good he is. I'm picking the Packers just based off that. Like, there's little to no tape on Jaren Hall in the NFL. Like, I can't confidently pick him. So I'm just going to take the Packers.
I'm going to take the Packers too, 24-20.
Of course you are.
Right, but, I got to be honest. We might make Jaren Hall look like, the next Joe Burrow or something with our recent track record. We let Tommy DeVito look like Eli Manning and lead a comeback drive against us. We let Baker Mayfield look like Tom Brady and have a perfect passer rating against us. We let Bryce Young look like Drew Brees and have the best game of his career against us and almost lead a game-tying drive at the end. So I'm a little nervous, and this Vikings defense is legit, but this is a game that Packers absolutely need to and should win 24-20. All right. Well, that's a wrap for everything that I had prepared for us here today, Kyle. Again, I appreciate you joining, catching us up on basketball. And that's going to be it for the year of the Dragon as we head into 2024, the year of the Dragon. Let's see how our Dragon picks play out over we might see it right away with Kyron Williams, honestly. But Kyle, thank you as always for joining.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, fun time.
Yeah. And Drake should be back on here in the coming weeks. It's been a tricky schedule with work, but we look forward to bringing you guys more content on a weekly basis. This last one for the calendar year. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram, all at Mad Talk Sports. And we will be seeing you again next week.